Okay, so what is a generator dump load? I call it that because I have a wind turbine, and when my wind turbine generates more power than my battery bank can take, then the additional power goes into a dump load. Now, on a generator, being as it's important that you keep the load on it above 50%, if you're charging your battery bank and you've gone into float mode, which could only be a couple of hundred watts, and you've got a 5,000 watt system, you need to dump more load into something else so you can bring that up above 50%. If you run your generator below 50% all the time, and especially if you run it really low, it's hard on the regulator and you can burn them up. Now, if you've got say a 3,500 watt Champion generator, you spent $200 for it, and you're living off grid and using it on a regular basis, you're going to be replacing it every year, so it doesn't really matter. But if you put the money out for a nice Honda and you've paid $800, $1,500, $2,500, or in my case, I've got an 8,000 watt Northern Lights diesel generator that cost me 10 grand, I want to make sure it's protected. And your battery bank has to be brought to a full charge of 100% once a month to help to keep it from sulfating. You have to keep the sulfation down so that the batteries will operate at 100%, and so they'll last longer. So you have to do proper maintenance on them. Now, if you go back and look in my video about the mechanical of my cab, and there's a little section in there where I showed this system I put together. Now, I don't know if somebody else has done it. I don't know if there's a little module you can buy that you can plug in and it'll take care of it for you. I couldn't find anything, and I wouldn't know what it's called to know what to look for. So I made my own. Now, here's the idea behind it. When your generator first turns on, you don't want to have a load on it. It's got to have a warm-up period of a couple of minutes. And when it shuts down, you don't want to have a load on it. It's got to have a cool down period before it shuts down. It's not good to shut a generator down when it's under a load. I hear a lot of people say that they've got a generator, they just fill the tank up with gas and get it started and take off to town or forget about it till it runs out of gas. You don't want to do that. It's gonna burn up that regulator. Again, if it's just a cheap little generator, who cares? But this system I put together, it holds back the load until the generator is warmed up, and it shuts the load off before the generator shuts down. And that way, and the only time that it draws is when the generator is running. So I've been in stores where people say when you're charging your batteries and they go into a float mode, go plug some heaters in or something so you can build up your load. Well, you've got to listen for your generator when it's going to shut off, because if you miss it, then that extra load that you're putting on the generator is now coming off your batteries. So if you've turned and walked away from it, gone out to work in the garden or something like that, you might come back in and find out your batteries are drained down. So I don't have to plug anything in, I don't have to unplug anything. I just let everything do it its own self, and it works great. It's kind of all automatic, no-brainer. So I put together a schematic so I can give you an idea of how it works and how I put it together, and hopefully something like this might help you. So here it is. Okay, now this is the schematic. Now keep in mind this only works with an auto start, and I would highly recommend getting an auto start, because with my first bank, I was always having to monitor my system, and when it would get down to like 12.2 volts, 12.2, I'd start the generator, and I'd just walk away and leave it, and then I'd have to check it to see where it was at, and you really can't check it properly unless you've got gauges in there that'll do it for you. There was a lot of times I walked away and forgot the generator was running, and it ran for hours and hours, just wasting time, not doing anything. And there was a few times it ran out of gas, which is something I never want a generator to do. So what we have here is, this is the line from the generator. This is the line going to the charger. This is a circuit sensing relay. Now it's self-powering, so it doesn't have to have control voltage. When the generator or when the charger calls for the generator to turn on, right off the bat, it's going to put power to these lines. But the charger's holding back the load because it's giving the generator a chance to warm up, and there'll be a setting in your charger on how long to let it warm up before it opens the circuit and allows the voltage to come in. This here will sense that. As soon as that current starts to flow through there, it'll sense it, and it'll close the contact between these two. Now let me go through and explain everything else first. I just wanted, the circuit sensing is something not many people know about, so I wanted to explain that real quick. Now you've got your control voltage, which is the voltage that goes to the coils that actuates each one of your contactors. And it doesn't matter if it's 12 volt, 24 volt, 48, 96 DC current, or 110 or 220 AC current. Just make sure that whatever voltage you put in here is the same coil voltage on every single one of these. Well, this one here, it doesn't matter because it's self powered. But on these three relays right here, you want to make sure that the control voltage is the same. So one of these contactors is going to go to dump load 1. In my case, that's my water heater. The other goes to dump load 2, which is an outlet that I have pre-designated for space heaters. So how this is going to work is the generator kicks on. There's power to these lines, but it's not moving. So this circuit sensing relay does nothing. As soon as the charger allows the voltage to go through, it's going to move through this circuit sensing relay. It's going to close the contacts from the positive, goes through here, and it will energize the positive side of the time delay relay. Now this is your negative side. I did this because I didn't want too many lines going through here. This is our negative with an arrow on it. This contactor has a negative. This contactor has a negative. This contactor has a negative. So theoretically speaking, there's lines from that go to all three of these. This is your positive. It's going to go through here. It's going to actuate this. Now my time delay is set for 15 seconds. So once the charger dumps its load into the generator, this system here gives it 15 seconds to stabilize and get happy before it kicks on. I don't want to throw a load onto the generator as soon as it starts up with my charger, which is going to be charging everything it can charge, and my water heater, which is a big load. Put those two together, they're about the same size load, all slamming the generator at once. So this here delays it for 15 seconds. Once it's actuated, it takes this positive power and it goes into a three-way switch. From that three-way switch, if you have it switched to the left, it'll send the power down here. It'll actuate this contactor, and it will send the line voltage from the inverter to the contactor and up to the dump load. If you have the selector switch in the middle, it shuts both of them off. Nothing happens. If you go to the right, then it sends the positive side over to this contactor, and it closes this one. By having a three-way switch, both of these cannot be on at the same time. That's going to be a lot of voltage. You're going to need a big generator. I've got an 8,000 watt generator and I can't run my charger and both of these at the same time. So this is how it works. And I'll leave it here for a minute so you can look at it, give you a chance to pause it if you want to study it. If you have any questions, concerns, or if you know a company that sells something like this, let me know. But I put this together myself. It was easy to do, and put it up here for you guys to be able to use it.